On this episode, Eric and I discussed the peace process thus far, including the bust that was the Anchorage summit, Trump's meeting with the Europeans on Monday, and what we currently know about the terms of a possible agreement. Okay, let's go.
Conflict, politics, military-industrial complex, technology, war. The Flash Traffic Podcast.
Did you see that Israel wants to send all the Palestinians to South Sudan? Did you see that?
Are they being serious?
Yeah, it's completely serious. They want to send them to South Sudan. I guess that's better than killing them.
Because that's the only option, right?
Well, that's pretty much their only choice they're given at this point. We'll bomb you and kill you, or you can go to South Sudan and probably die of cholera. That's good stuff. Very humane ideas coming out of Israel right now.
Wow.
What I wanted to do today was basically talk about the negotiations to this point for Ukraine. So I wanted to start with the Alaskan meeting, the Alaskan summit with Putin, and then move to the DC meeting on Monday. Then what we know of the terms that have been leaked thus far, probably leaked by the Europeans, but
for sure,
of course,
for sure.
Or maybe somebody in our own Department of Defense, and then Pete Hegseth will put him on a lie detector.
Yeah, they'll do a polygraph.
He'll get to the bottom.
Yeah, he'll do a polygraph.
He'll get to the bottom of this. Pete Hegseth will get to the bottom of any 100%. Leaks. Okay, so let's look at this video. This is the Trump video in Alaska of him meeting Putin. Friendly handshake, lots of smiles. Putin saying something in weird broken English.
Yeah, disgraceful.
And two happy friends.
Embarrassing for the U.S.
They're still chatting. They're like, oh yeah, it's Alaska. Alaska's got a lot of mosquitoes.
Make Alaska Russia again.
Yeah. And then they're just walking.
So at least he's saluting
down a red carpet.
He's saluting U.S. soldiers as opposed to saluting North Korean generals, which Trump usually likes to do.
He salutes everyone. He doesn't care.
He likes to salute people not in his army.
Let me shut off the weird jet noise. So
those are F-35s, Joint Strike Fighters lined up.
Yes.
Just
F-35s.
Revealing critical intelligence on our Air Force foolishly for no reason.
I don't think they're going to get a lot of intelligence from the outside.
Who came up with that? Did they have like a middle school group come up with that platform with like Alaska 2025 on that?
Yeah, there should be balloons too.
Yeah, where's the confetti? I think Alaska Middle School came up with that. Yeah, photo op.
Yeah.
Look at our classified stealth fighters lined up. Check those out.
Yep. It's a show of strength. Don't you wish you had stealth fighters that actually worked?
So much strength.
So much better than the Su-57.
Dude, that's the platform? That's it? That's all you could come up with? That's probably fitting for...
You just stand there?
A country with 1/10 the GDP of ours. Okay.
I guess there was also a row in the press about U.S. soldiers affixing the red carpet to, whatever, Moscow 1, whatever Putin drives it. And so then they get in the limo, the Beast, and they drive off.
Look at the planes are fake. Friends. Look at they can't even fly.
Those are fake
These are mock-ups. We actually clowned Russian intelligence by F-35 mock-ups. They're fake.
Yeah.
We just towed them there, and they think that they're flyable condition.
Yeah, whatever. They're just making him jealous. It's interesting that on the military base, they get in the first car and then they go. Like, wouldn't you randomize? Wouldn't you randomize which car you get into?
Okay. Well, if you're going to get whacked on a U.S. military base, then you had no chance to begin with. You can't secure that.
Also in the video, there's a flyover with F-22s,
Oh, that's really nice.
Raptors, and a stealth bomber. So there was one Spirit that was in the formation. So they flew over. Show of power. Really, nothing really came of the Alaskan summit. There was one thing that did not come out of the Alaskan summit. There was one thing that did not come out of the Alaskan summit was the day before. Well, there was nothing even close. But the day before, Zelensky flew to Berlin so he could be with all the European leaders on a video teleconference, a Zoom call with President Trump. And the only thing apparently that the Europeans told Trump, just one thing, we have to get a ceasefire. This is the only thing you have to remember, President Trump, we have to get a ceasefire. If you get one thing out of this summit in Anchorage, let's have a ceasefire.
Let me guess.
Trump was probably, okay, a ceasefire. Sounds really good.
Let me guess.
Get a ceasefire.
That didn't happen.
And then immediately after the summit, Trump's like, we don't need a ceasefire. I've never done a ceasefire. I've done 6, maybe 7 peace deals in the last year. Never had a ceasefire. Went straight to the armistice or whatever. But clearly, Ukraine needs a ceasefire. Guess what? Russia probably needs a ceasefire too. They would like to have a ceasefire. They're gaining territory, but it's minuscule compared to the overall peace deal right now. So, but I'm sure Russia would like to have a respite from getting their refineries bombed and their 1,000 casualties a day, which is what it's at recently.
Yeah, it's about 1,000.
About 1,000. So
which is low.
Nothing came out of the Anchorage summit. Definitely no ceasefire. There was a rumor that was released afterwards, probably from Witkoff, that the whole of the Donbas was on the table to give to Russia. Russia currently owns almost all of Donetsk and all of Luhansk, and then probably 70%, 75% of Donetsk oblasts. What came out of this thing was a rumor that Russia's going to get it all, and I think that could happen. I think that could very well happen. It's going to be bad, but
what timeline?
So we'll talk about the Donetsk a little later. We'll talk about the Donbas in a bit. So Monday, European leaders flew to Washington, D.C. with Zelensky to attend the White House meeting because they were afraid that Zelensky was going to get molested again by J.D. Vance like he did last time. Yeah, let's look at this. Here is Trump and Zelensky at the White House in the Oval Office. Interestingly enough, the European leaders were not invited to this Oval Office meeting. But let's see what Trump says here.
Your team has talked about security guarantees. Could that involve U.S. troops? Would you roll that out in the future?
We'll let you know that maybe later today. We're meeting with 7 great leaders of great countries also, and we'll be talking about that. They'll all be involved, but there'll be a lot of help when it comes to security. There's going to be a lot of help. It's going to be.
So, what's the U.S. credibility of security assurance when in 1994 we convinced Ukraine to give up its nuclear weapons arsenals and strategic bombers to deliver them in return for, wait for it, for those in the cheap seats, U.S. security guarantees for Ukraine. So what's our credibility now after screwing the pooch and rolling over for Putin with 1/10 the economy of ours? What any credibility does Trump have at this point? I'm just asking like for a friend.
Yeah, there's very little. I mean, the Budapest Memorandum, as you spoke of, relinquished all their nuclear weapons, Minsk 1 and 2. Russia signed some kind of agreement that they would not invade Ukraine.
But they did. And Europe and the U.S. just rolled over. Too messy, too dirty, didn't want to get involved. And as you know, weakness provokes more aggression.
Yeah. So
Childhood
Trump,
psychology. It's like psychology in a schoolyard. You don't have to do much more looking at kids in a schoolyard or looking at prison gangs in a prison to understand human behavior.
yeah,
We
it's all
all just
might makes
we
right.
just rolled over. Yeah, that's what we're
Yeah.
good at. Rolling over.
So Trump said that he's meeting 7 leaders from the European Union,
Okay.
leaders of country. Not exactly. So here's a picture of the European leaders that did not get to sit in the Oval Office with Zelensky. Although Keith Kellogg did get to stand in the back.
Well,
He was
these guys.
present. So that's
Did they
nice. Threw
later
him a
meet?
bone.
Didn't they?
They did
Well,
meet
they're meeting here
after
with
the
Trump
Oval
now.
Office.
Oh yeah, okay, fair
Yeah,
enough.
this is the family picture. So in
Family
this picture, Ursula von der Leyen, who is the president of the EU Commission, she is not, as Trump said, she is not a leader of a European country per se. She's a leader of a fractured European Union.
Right. Yet she's done more to push back on Russia than just about anybody.
Okay. Here's Keir Starmer from the UK. There's Alexander Stubb, president of Finland. If you remember this guy right here, he was the guy in March that went to Mar-a-Lago and played golf with Trump, and they had a great time all day. Apparently, he was a collegiate golfer, but
That's
he's
from
Finland.
Yeah, that's a cool story, bro.
Yep. Zelensky wearing a kind of a suit, I guess. In Ukrainian, they call it a costume. But it's like a Soviet suit. It's not like a Western suit. He's wearing an Eastern Soviet bloc kind of suit thing. And then Trump, and then Macron, and then Giorgio Meloni, and then Friedrich Merz of Germany, and then Mark Butt Kisser Rutte, who is the NATO commander. So also Mark Rutte is not a leader of anything country-wise. So yeah. And then immediately after Trump said, hey, we're going to get with these European leaders and we're going to talk about security guarantees and the possibility of having U.S. troops on the ground. And then immediately after that, it was released that Trump said, no, there won't be any U.S. troops on the ground. Here's a title from...
I'm glad he did that. That is probably the stupidest idea I've ever heard offered, of putting U.S. troops on the ground in Ukraine. That's the stupidest idea I've heard. When you don't have to. You defeat Russia in combat in the field. That you even consider peacekeeping troops shows how you have conceptually run out of ground. That you have caved into Russia. You have stopped the idea of defeating them in combat. And you're going to spend tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars putting troops on the ground because you didn't have the nutsack to provide the artillery and ammunition and continuing support to defeat Russian combat, where you push them back across the border and you never need peacekeeping troops ever. To me, that shows a conceptual dead end, and that you're even bringing it up shows your failed policy. Just my opinion.
Well, this is in the context of an armistice or a peace deal. So after the fighting is over.
Yeah, because you've rolled over. Because you've given in and rolled over.
Right. At the same time, after the peace deal is signed.
Simultaneously, you rolled over and gave in. And now you're giving boots on the ground because your strategy failed. If you even had a strategy.
You don't think it would be a stronger deterrence to have U.S. boots on the ground versus just European boots on the ground?
No, would be a stronger deterrence? Destroying Russia's army in the field and forcing them to retreat back across the border, and then arming Ukraine to the teeth, where Russia doesn't even think about doing it again. Now, no, that's a pretty good. That's a deterrent for me. I'm going out on a limb on this one.
But in the context of, let's say that the war is over next week, don't you think it's a great idea to have
Horrible
the
idea.
biggest,
Stupidest idea I've ever heard. It's
even
costly. It's going to cost you
Mhm.
hundreds of millions of dollars for
Right.
deploying troops. Ironically, that never needed to be there, never needed to set foot on the ground ever.
Right, but hindsight.
I'm saying it now before it's
Well,
happened. So
right,
for
but
me, it's not
hindsight
hindsight.
to the side. If the peace negotiations were to end in an armistice next week,
Okay.
wouldn't you say at that point? Wouldn't you say would be cheaper to put boots on the ground than to have $350 billion over 3 years of what we spent?
Literally
According
the
to Trump.
stupidest idea I've heard. So
So
you're
we
going to
should not
risk.
put U.S. boots on the
Why
ground.
would you? Why would you
As a deterrence?
endanger your? So you want to talk deterrence? Well, then let's talk about arming Ukraine to win the war and sticking behind them so they do win it. That's also deterrence. I don't want U.S. soldiers on the ground, stepping on landmines, getting caught in crossfires, and then spending all this money for something conceptually you never had to do. All you had to do was do 5% of your defense spending every year, politically be strong, and show Russia you're never winning. This is a black hole for you. You're going to collapse and fall inside it. Have a nice day. Never send a single troop.
So it's a moot point.
I'm just
It's a
at
moot
odds
point
with you.
anyways, since they're not going to send any
Well,
troops.
anything's
anyways.
possible. Britain brought this up. Britain brought this up before of putting British air quotes peacekeepers on the ground. And peacekeeping is, in many examples, just a disaster. Can't defend yourself. No clear chain of command. The chain of command you have doesn't have the nutsack to let you actually defend yourself against some kind of aggression. I mean, pick whatever example you want in the world of peacekeeping, where you want to talk about Somalia, you want to talk about Black Hawk Down, you want to talk about like the train wrecks of peacekeeping that you're going to put U.S. soldiers in because you didn't have the political will to defeat Russia's army in the field. Okay. I'm simply against it. I have been since day one. Britain found out it wasn't feasible. The amount of troops it would take for a 1,000-kilometer border, what are you, out of your mind? How many you needed, the expense, how long you'd have to be there. Like Britain would have to send their entire military. Like the British military would be in Ukraine, make them like a Ukrainian division.
What about the concept of a tripwire? So you have a small Western contingency in the country along the border. If they get overrun, like Camp Smith or something like that.
Yeah, just kill your American troops because conceptually you didn't have the backbone to defeat Russia's army in the field. I get it. Yeah, I got it. But conceptually, it shows you're at a dead end, and you didn't have the gravitas to defeat Russia.
So moving forward after a peace deal, you don't think there should be troops on the ground?
There never should. No, there shouldn't have been ever. Nope.
Yeah, I know, but that's hypothetically, if the peace deal happens next week,
okay.
You don't think we should put any kind of Western troops in Ukraine to deter future Russian aggression?
Nope.
You think that funding Ukraine, which will probably go back to sitting on their butts and increasing corruption and the peace dividend.
But you thought peacekeepers would do that. You thought peacekeeping troops would solve all those problems.
I think Ukraine is going to need as much deterrence against future Russian aggression when this war is over as humanly possible.
Yeah, know what that looks like? Like 1,000 HIMARS launchers with 10 million rockets hitting every Russian objective within 100 miles in concentric circles. Know what it looks like? Cruise missiles, deep strikes, hitting airports, oil refineries, train stations, army headquarters. That's what real deterrence is. What you're talking is watered down dog shit because you didn't have the spine to destroy Russia's army in the field. Now, Ukraine's already destroyed their motorized and armored military. That portion of it, that's destroyed. Air Force can't fly in the FLOT. Helicopter and planes are irrelevant. Navy is hiding because they got so embarrassed with their losses. There is no mechanized force. It doesn't exist. What you have to deal with is infantry and missiles and drones. The equation has been simplified. So why can't we handle that? Oh, we're the greatest military in the world. We got the greatest technology. Then why can't you handle this? Um, anyways, I think it's a third best option. It shows you couldn't handle your business. And now you're forced to do something like this and putting troops in harm. Wasn't that the GOP platform running their mouth under the Biden administration? Oh, they want to send troops into Ukraine. Why would we have one American soldier die for Ukraine? So I guess now the GOP, MAGA, and Trump will do backflips and just do a 180 on their grievance campaign for 3 years. And now you want U.S. soldiers getting killed on the border with Russia. Just for me, no thanks. There's real deterrence you can do, and it doesn't involve a dude with an M4 in a pillbox on the border with Kursk. What the fuck? I mean, what the fuck are we doing here?
I think it would be probably the best deterrence because I don't have a lot of faith in Ukrainian military industrial complex that it won't siphon a lot of that money to corruption, that it won't be infiltrated again by Russian operatives or Russian sympathizers, that they won't just cut the budget after the war completely and let the army deteriorate.
So you want to be their army,
taking a peace dividend.
So your long-term goal is to be their army.
Not be their army. I like the idea of some Western presence there to make Putin think twice, or whoever Putin's successor is, to think twice before invading Ukraine again.
It would make him think twice if you killed another million Russians.
Okay, well, that has nothing to do with the peace process or the armistice.
Yeah, actually, it does. Peace comes when one side is exhausted and or defeated or gives up. If you're not at that point yet, then you haven't done the homework. So if you send peacekeepers there, that's going to have nothing to do with internal processes for Ukraine. Wouldn't that, in fact, speed that up? You're talking about not investing in the military, let it fall. We don't need it anymore. I see what you're saying. The U.S. will do it for us.
That might facilitate their laxity in maintaining their military. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It could jeopardize.
Isn't that what we did with Europe?
Motivation.
Isn't that what Trump and the GOP just bitches about all day long?
Yeah,
Europe, get off your ass. Do it for yourself. True. Why are we handling your business? So all the nonsense that we've told Russia for the last or Europe for the last 3 years, now we're going to do it for Ukraine? We'll handle your defense, Ukraine. We don't want you to handle it yourself. Big Daddy will come in and do it for you. That contradicts everything we said.
You do have a point. That is a good point. The only critique of that, I would say, is Europe has more financial wherewithal, I guess, to protect themselves than Ukraine does. But other than that, see the analogy there. I see the analogy. I think it's a useful analogy.
You're too kind.
Okay,
You're too generous.
Let's talk about the terms of the agreement.
Oh God.
So we had the Nothing Summit in Alaska. We had the
we can agree on that. That was a nothing summit. 100%.
We had the weird sycophantic meeting at the White House on Monday with the NATO and European sycophants, and Zelensky, who is a sycophant by necessity. And then, so what is the current status that we think is the agreement? What is still in play? What is live? The first thing is for Ukraine is security guarantees. So there was a rumor, or I guess a statement, that the U.S. would sell $90 billion of military equipment to Ukraine, paid for by Europe. And I think that number has now been moved up to $100 billion. I like it. That's a great deal. It's a great deal for America because we get to make all our military industrial complex bullshit, sell it to Ukraine, and NATO pays for it. What a win. If anything, there's a win. USA for the win. USA for the win. not counting for the the global status quo that is eventually going to hurt us when Russia is aggressive again. But that seems like a win for me. So security guarantees still up in the air. Trump said something like NATO-like security guarantees, some vague Article 5 guarantee that Russia's not going to agree to that. What security? Whatever. There was also, I think, a statement by the Russians that they would put into their constitution that they would not invade Ukraine.
Shut the
Who
fuck
gives a
up.
shit?
Who gives a fuck about that?
I'll
Really,
wipe
dude?
my ass with your
Really?
constitution.
I mean,
Just like Trump wipes his ass with ours. I'll
Is he
wipe my
just-
ass with the Russian
they
constitution.
just trolling us? Is like Putin just trolling the world now? Are you out of your fucking mind?
It's
Who
ridiculous.
cares?
That's
Freaking
stupid.
meaningless.
That's
What
stupid.
a joke.
This is what Zelensky said
What a
was
joke.
his priorities to defend the country after a possible peace agreement. Is domestically produced cruise missile program or ballistic missile program. His drones, and then whatever Western security guarantees. So three components: his strategic strike complex, Western assistance, and then drones, which was kind of unspecified. But we can figure out what he means by drones.
Good.
For that, Ukraine needs one thing: cold, hard euros. That's what they need, because they have the domestic capacity to build more weapons, especially strategic weapons now. They do not have the financial backing to pull that off right now. So they need the money from Europe to make that happen, because at least half of that is going to go away instantly to corruption as soon as it gets inside Ukraine. Now, what about what about Russia? Part of the terms of the agreement. Territory swaps is the big one. And it seems to be right now that Russia gets whatever they hold now, minus the small sliver in the north in Kharkiv Oblast.
Who cares?
Near Vovchansk. Who cares about that? And the minuscule amount that they now hold in the Sumy Oblast, south of Kursk. Okay, again, who gives a shit? That's not a trade. All of the Donbass plus all the occupied territories, minus those two slivers of territory that Ukraine
That's
holds,
what Russia
terrible.
wants. That's what Russia wants.
Let's talk about the Donbass, because Putin wants all of the Donbass. And this is kind of a review for everybody that follows Ukraine, but I will explain this in excruciating detail, and I apologize. Here's Ukraine. It's roughly the size of Texas. These 25 oblasts, I guess there's 25 if you count Crimea. They are basically counties, big counties in like a large state of Texas. But in the far east, there's a place called the Donbass, and it's composed of Luhansk, this upper territory. And I apologize if you're listening to this and not watching this on YouTube or Spotify video. But this upper one is Luhansk, the lower oblast is Donetsk. And you would say together they are the Donbass, and you're like, is that a Russian word? Is Donbass a Ukrainian word? And no, in fact, it's actually an English word. Donbass is an acronym that comes from the Donetsk River Basin, which is the Donetsk River runs through there that goes to the Don. So Rostov-on-Don, that river. So Donbass, and why is it an English word? Well, because Americans started their iron and coal production industry in the east of Ukraine. The same reason we have a town in eastern Ukraine called New York.
New York.
Same reason. There's a lot of American industrialist influence in the Donbass, obviously. Anyways, Russia wants all of this territory to include the currently occupied territory in Zaporizhia Oblast and Kherson Oblast down here. Why is that a problem? Because if we look, I'm going to go to the deep state map for just a second and show you this because it has the cities on it. Okay, if you look at this map right here, this is the deep state map with the Russian. I hesitate to call them troop formations, but Russian
that is what
vectors,
it is.
I guess.
Yeah, it's fine.
Russian vectors.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Right here, so this dotted line is the Donbass, the rest of Donetsk Oblast. And you can see there's a lot of territory. But right here along this highway, forget the name of it, doesn't matter. It's a highway. Kramatorsk and Sloviansk. And those sit on a kind of a high plateau. And it's called the fortress belt right here in this area that they have built up a lot of defensive positions, the Ukrainians have, to prevent the Russians from moving across. And I have been to Kramatorsk probably 3 times
Thank you for your
since the beginning
service.
of the war. Yeah, but I remember looking over, being on the top of those plateaus, and you can look down on the city itself, but further east, and thinking, wow, this is a very Soviet city. It's very, even though it's gray and a Soviet city like most Ukrainian cities, I just can't imagine the Russians suddenly coming in and taking over Sloviansk and Kramatorsk or Konstantinivka. I just can't imagine that. How painful would that be? Not only from a strategically defensive pain for the Ukrainians, but just in terms of the population, just in terms of people fleeing, having to, leave, a bunch of refugees. It's going to be bad. This is a bad deal for the Ukrainians.
No.
Yeah. So another term of the agreement is no to NATO. Yeah, we got it. Okay. No to NATO. Yeah, that's never going to happen. But there is talk of possible EU troops. I don't think Putin's going to go for that. And possibly, this came out yesterday or this morning, I think it was yesterday, possibly supported by U.S. air power. Now, that would be a big deal if we have a no-fly zone. If we have a no-fly zone over eastern Ukraine, I think that would be a good deal. Good deal for Ukraine.
Yeah, why can't Ukraine do their own no-fly zone?
Well, because they have what do we say, 30 to 40 F-16s?
87 have been committed. 50, there's a European initiative for training the Ukrainians. It's in Romania, part of the European initiative. Why isn't Ukraine doing this? Why aren't you training them, giving them the equipment to do their own no-fly zone?
Yeah, I think ultimately that would be great if we can get the Ukrainian Air Force up to 1,000, Mirages and F-16s and MiGs, and
I think they've getting rid of their MiGs. Yeah, there's been a movement in Europe to divest of Russian aircraft because they performed so poorly on both sides, right? Ukraine flies Russian aircrafts except for whatever's been donated. Both sides
Soviet
have performed. Some are Soviet, some are that old. They have performed poorly on both sides.
Yeah, but still, I agree. I would rather see a strong Ukrainian Air Force capable of launching cruise missiles well past Moscow than us doing a no-fly zone. So this is going to be a win for Putin if it comes out like we think it's going to be.
Could be.
It's going to be a win for Putin. Trump was hot mic'd talking to Macron.
Oh boy!
Did you hear about this?
No.
Trump was talking to Macron, and he was hot mic'd, and apparently he said,
"Oh Jesus!
Putin wants to make a deal for me." Can you believe that?
So
he wants to make a deal for me.
The narcissistic,
he's crazy.
arrogant, oh, I'm the center of the world. I'm George Bush. I looked into his eyes and saw his soul. Putin is honest. We can deal with him. You are kidding yourself like you have since day one.
Yeah. It's
Complete
it's
nonsense.
it's really crazy. But this will be a win for Putin.
Could be.
Putin, if it
Could be.
happens like this. It'll be a terrible outcome for Ukraine, but not the worst outcome. And it's going to be probably terrible for the EU because from their perspective, Europe is going to have to start paying their way for their own defense.
Well, I kind of
feel
think
really
they,
bad for them.
I kind of think they are, but then the U.S. wants to pay Ukraine's defense with a no-fly zone and boots on the ground peacekeepers. Help me with that contradiction.
Yeah, I don't know how big a no-fly zone is it going to be. That's the question.
Well, you got
Is
a
it gonna be-
1,000
is it gonna be like
kilometer
Iraq?
border.
I don't know.
Yeah, you got a 1,000-kilometer border. Tell me how long it's going to take you to secure that. How many resources does that take?
I don't
I'm
know.
curious.
By plane.
I'm just
you know,
curious.
it doesn't take that long to patrol it, I guess. I don't know. But I asked myself, this is the question that I
You
asked
probably
myself.
asked yourself a lot of things. I'm not sure if I want to know. Okay.
What would a strong Europe do? Just a hypothetical,
That's a good question.
counterfactual, if you will.
That
What
is
would
a
a strong
very good question.
Europe do? They would probably have told the world they're not going to put up or entertain any more of this Trump fuckery. They're going to stop buying Russian gas.
Ooh.
And they're gonna give Ukraine the 150 billion euros that they need to win this war in a big lump sum. They're just gonna give it to them all at once, and they're gonna commit to this strategy until Russia is defeated, as long as it takes, as much as it takes money wise. It's not going to take that much. They would just, what they wouldn't do is a bunch of these sycophants get on a plane and fly to D.C. just to make sure Zelensky doesn't get molested by J.D. Vance.
Well, that's good. I'm glad
in the Oval Office.
I'm glad they did that. Come on now. I'm glad they did that. You got to
show
some
that's
kind of
better than
support,
nothing.
right? You got to show some support. Well, if you had big boy pants on, you wouldn't accept anything other than Ukraine winning the war outright.
Yeah,
and provide the oversight. Provide what you have to oversight.
They're just so worried about the U.S. leaving NATO and the U.S. not contributing, to their defense. I mean, they're weak and they're a fractured group of self-interest states.
100%.
And Europe is mostly to blame for incentivizing Putin's aggression, because Putin looked over the border and saw a weak, fractured
100%.
European Union, not going to do shit about shit, and I can do whatever I want.
I can't argue. I can't argue with anything you said. I'd be a fool to refute it.
Yeah,
but anything can change and everything can change, but you would have to change, right? You have people putting on their big boy pants. Finland, the Baltics, Poland, Romania. If you could just allow me, just a small allowance, Europe is rearming, and they're rearming for reals. If I could go down, England is preparing to buy 138 F-35s. 138.
Good.
Norway.
Buy American.
52 already did, by the way, F-35s made by Lockheed Martin. So's the F-16. Norway has received their last order of 52 F-35s. Finland, 64 F-35s. Netherlands, 58. Germany, 35. Germany also rolls with the Typhoon. Switzerland, 36. Romania, not a wealthy country, 32. Belgium, 45. Poland, 32. Denmark, 37. Czech Republic, 24. Greece, 20. Bulgaria, 16 F-16s. The ultra-modern, upgraded, expensive
cost almost
F-16s.
as much as the
almost.
I think it's Block 70 or 75.
Yeah, right. The most recent
F-16 Block 70 it costs almost as much as an F-35.
Almost.
Just get the
Slovakia.
F-35, man.
But you look at a rearmament of Europe. Now, that's just the U.S. planes, but there's been a tremendous rearmament of Europe. Tremendous.
Yeah.
And I would say
good. They need to.
if they could put it all together and actually do something with it, they obviously outstrip Russian air capability. 100% they do.
Actually, GDP-wise, they're crushing Russia. They can do that. They can rearm, no problem. It's not going to impact their society. I will say that good for them, but Europe is on decline. It's a dying society, and they know it. And they're going to be still sucking off the tit of American defense, just like they have been since 1943.
That's a pretty big statement you made. Since 1943, why did you choose that year?
I just kind of picked that.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
It's not quite 1940, but it's not quite 1945. Let me just conclude the going back to the negotiations.
Let's go back to negotiations. Let's do it, sir.
It's going to suck. It's going to suck for Europe. It's going to suck for Ukraine. But, Ukrainians have been fond of saying, maybe not this year, but the first couple of years, first 3 years maybe, that they had already won the war because they defended their country from the Soviet horde, the Russian horde. Now it's just a matter of jockeying for territory. They have said that. I've heard that many times in Ukraine from many different Ukrainians. So, it's not as bad as it could be for Ukraine. Russia needs the deal. I think Ukraine definitely needs the deal. And Europe wants to maintain their alliance with the U.S. in terms of NATO and security. So I think as bad as this deal is for Ukraine, I think we might be able to get something done here. Done.
We'll see. How much do you want to roll over for Russia? How much you want to roll over someone with a GDP the size of New York State? It'll be interesting to see.
Well, Trump has proposed a bilateral meeting with Zelensky and Putin before he does another meeting with Putin, and in a trilateral format with Putin, Zelensky, and himself. So we'll see. I don't think the Kremlin is going to agree to that. I don't think they're going to agree to sit down with Zelensky, Putin, one-on-one.
So that would be humiliating to Putin, because now Zelensky's your equal. This guy you talk shit about.
If I had to guess, the best case is probably going to be Zelensky, Trump, and Putin in the next one. I don't think Trump is going to get his pre-meeting or whatever he's calling it with Zelensky and Putin only before that. But I think we might be getting this deal done. I don't know how long it's going to take. It would be nice to have a ceasefire so people aren't dying in the interim, because this could take months.
Oh, for sure.
If it's going to happen. Could
take
if it doesn't
longer.
fall apart.
So this is interesting for Putin, though. You went into this saying you were going to take Ukraine, taking the whole country. You didn't go into this taking the Donbass. That's your fallback position, because you got clowned with the rest of your operation. And now you got 1 million guys missing legs, dead, TBI, PTSD, unemployed, drug users, criminal gangs, all that stuff. And now you're going to have to sign on the dotted line that I'm just going to take, this little rump state, this impoverished, bombed out shithole with no economic return whatsoever. And Russia is spending 35% of its federal budget on the military. What the fuck do you have to show for all this? The bombed out carcass of the Donbass with zero economy? That's what you got to show?
Yeah, well, at this point, it's still a win for Putin, although you're right. It's not his maximalist gains.
It is not his maximalist position.
His efforts.
And then he's going to have to recognize security guarantees for Ukraine, which he has poo-pooed. Ukraine's Russia. We're the same people. How could you even think of this? He's going to have to eat a lot of crow to do any of this. And how does that put his power position in the oligarchs, where all these ass clowns have talked shit for 4 years of how competent they are and how powerful they are, and the Russian people should just go along with their institutional corruption because they make such great decisions, And this is what you got out of this: 1 million casualties, the economy down the toilet, $100 billion down a black hole that got you nothing. For the Donbass, people will be on food stamps for the next 20 years. It's so devastating. You've destroyed every economy. No town exists. Oh, what are you going to do? Make Bakhmut great again? You fucking leveled it. There is no economy. Donbass has no economy. It's a wartime donor economy. And now you're on the fucking hook to pay for all of it, bro. Your expenses are just starting. That's what you got out of it? Okay.
Well, it's Putin's hobby.
Right.
So, it's like, hey, why did you buy I don't know, what are some hobbies? Why did you buy a race car?
That was falling apart and got hit by 20 drones. What a beautiful race car. Oh, buff out.
Racing is my hobby.
The Donbass will buff out. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it won't.
All right. Hey, this has gone long enough. Hey, good chat. We will talk to you for War Week Friday coming up next time.
Don't miss it.
On the Flash Traffic
Big
Podcast.
topics, heavy hitting analysis. Be there.
As always, if you like the Flash Traffic Podcast, we're trying to get our subscribers up to 150,000 subscribers by the end of this year. And using exponential math,
right?
If everyone simply tells 10 people and they tell 10 people, we'll be there before Halloween.
Absolutely.
So no problem. It's the magic of exponential math. Just tell a couple people and they tell people. This is how you can support the Flash Traffic Podcast. Simply tell people about it.
The best.
Like, subscribe, forward the link.
Strategic analysis west of the Dnieper River.
Arizona.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Good chat. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Flash Traffic Podcast.